is from the Rotary Club of Greentown, Ipoh. During her 24 years of service to Rotary, she has held a full complement of positions in Rotary District 3300. Now, she served 4 terms as District Polio Chair. She has also led 2 polio eradication missions to India and Nepal, and both times she arranged for a TV crew to accompany from Bernama and NTV7. Now, in recognition of her services to Rotary, Datuk Bindi, a major donor, has been recognized with the 4 avenues of service citation for individual Rotarians, Rotary Foundation Citation for Meritorious Service, the Rotary Foundation Regional Service Award for a Polio-Free World. Currently, she is leading the district with special focus on mental health and environment issues. Now, Datuk Bindi is a managing partner and administrator of Rajasekaran Consultants, a leading legal industrial relations advisory practice. Datuk Bindi and Datuk Rajasekaran have 4 children and 7 grandchildren. Rotarians, ladies and gentlemen, I now invite Governor Datuk Bindi Rajasekaran to the virtual stage for her opening address. Over to you, Governor.
Thank you. Thank you, MC Yasmin. Governor Dolly, my classmate from District 3310, Vice Governor, past Governor Dato Jimmy Lim. I see many past governors on the call. A very warm welcome to all. District Governor-elect Dr. Krishna Kumar, esteemed speakers, past President John So from the Rotary Club of Jakarta Central, looking forward to listening to your inspirational message once again. Dr. Musa, grateful thanks to your presence once again, supporting Rotary in many causes. It's always refreshing listening to your thoughts. Dr. Hemant Shukla, representing WHO, we are indeed privileged to have you on the call today. Mr. Patrick Teo, an honor to finally meet you. Many of us spent many years listening to your voice. And of course, past governor and current Rotary International trustee, Aziz Memon, who is unable to be here today, he is the prime mover of the success story of polio eradication in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And today being World Polio Day, he has prior commitments. However, he did not disappoint us and sent us his message. And I would also like to acknowledge our District Foundation Chair, past Governor Siti Zubaida, and a team of members in the Foundation Committee, our distinguished guests, our fellow Rotarians who are our heroes, our movers and shakers, and our very enthusiastic organizing chairman, past Assistant Governor, Dr. Selva and his team. Thank you for organizing this event today. Good morning and a warm welcome. Thank you, MC, for the introduction. Yes, the 2 missions to India and Nepal will always remain close to my heart, as it's every wish of a Rotarian to be able to administer polio drops to a child. Serving as District Polio Chair, multiple terms only serve to enhance my knowledge, thus my passion for this subject. We have come a long way since the first polio vaccination program done by Rotarians in the Philippines in 1979 through a 3H grant, Health, Hunger, Humanity grant, to immunize 6 million children. It was this event that Rotary leaders recognized polio eradication as a worthy cause to be taken up. And thus, in 1985, Rotary International launched Polio Plus, the first and largest internationally coordinated private sector support of a public health initiative. 3 years later, in 1988, Rotary International and WHO launched the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, or GPEI for short. And at that point of time, an estimated 350,000 cases of polio existed in 125 countries. And I believe most of you were already born before that time. And if you had not contracted polio, you have been extremely lucky. Now, fast forward to today. From 350,000, we now only have 2 cases reported, one in Afghanistan and Pakistan in January this year. No other cases have been reported since. From 125 countries, wild polio virus is found in only 2 countries. This milestone has been achieved through concerted effort by many and the role of every 1.2 million Rotarian supporting the cause of eradicating polio. However, we have not only been addressing polio eradication. Our program also addresses various other health issues predominant in the affected countries, thus the name Polio Plus. For example, in Congo, measles vaccination campaigns have been integrated into the polio campaigns, increasing the coverage in measles by 95%. In Nigeria, the polio program was utilized to detect, track, and stop the 2014 Ebola outbreak before it could establish a foothold. In Nepal, the surveillance network established for polio is being used for other devastating diseases such as Japanese encephalitis, neonatal tetanus, measles, and rubella. In Sudan, polio eradication campaigns address issues such as cholera, measles, and meningitis outbreaks. Globally, 1.3 billion vitamin A supplements have been distributed during polio eradication campaigns, helping to prevent more than 1.5 million deaths globally. So that explains the plus in Polio Plus, and your contribution covers all this and much more. Polio eradication will be one of the greatest public health victories of our lifetime. We need to ensure that the world will stay polio-free and that the lessons, resources, and infrastructure which are already benefiting children beyond this one disease continue to help children for generations to come. And this can only happen with everyone's support to the Polio Fund raising effort. Do realize your contribution towards polio not only addresses the eradication of polio, but many other diseases. Now, the biggest expenditure is the intensive surveillance that is ongoing in 75 countries or more. Today, we will be awarding the first 30 who contribute a minimum of $1,000 to the Polio Fund, and this number also includes those who have contributed before this date. And for the highest personal contributor to the Polio Fund of not less than $5,000, you will have a personal photo opportunity with the RI President, who is scheduled to visit us in May. I wish all an enjoyable morning listening to all our esteemed speakers. Stay well and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Now, Rotarians, you may leave a note regarding your pledges or donation in the chat box. Please keep the donation coming. Now, the first 30 to contribute $1,000 to Polio Plus today will receive Rotary themed scarf or tie worth $160. Keep it coming. You can go to endpolio.org/donate. Now, next on the agenda, please allow me to introduce our moderator for today, a pediatric consultant and pediatric nephrologist. Past Assistant Governor Dr. Selva Kumar is the Vice President of Malaysian Pediatric Association, and the treasurer of Asia Pacific Pediatric Association. Dr. Silva Kumar is the District Polio Plus Chair, a member of Rotary Club of Melawati, and is also the organizing chairman of this event. Rotarians, ladies and gentlemen, I now hand over the session to Dr. Silva. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. DGs, PDGs, esteemed speakers, Rotarians, friends of Rotary, and members of the public. We are gathered virtually today to celebrate World Polio Day 2021, District 3300, to highlight our progress and ongoing commitment of end polio everywhere. Back in 1988, as DG mentioned, Rotary, along with our partners in the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, committed to eradicate polio. And now, almost 30 years later, in 2021, we only have 2 countries left with endemic circulating wild polio, and that is Afghanistan and Pakistan. And 2 out of the 3 wild polio viruses has been eradicated completely. There's only 1 circulating wild polio virus. To enlighten us more, we have prepared a line of experts to talk and inspire us to reach the final line and complete the end game. There are several house rules to mention. The question and answers will be entertained at the end of all the speakers have spoken, and it will be moderated by me later on. So you can type your questions in their chat box, and our team of members will take it down, and we will do the question and answer later. Apart from that, as Yasmin said, please mute your microphone during the speakers session in progress. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker. Let me share my screen. He is no stranger to us, the Rotarians in Southeast Asia, as many of us have listened to him personally and virtually in the last few years. PP John H.G. So will be talking about experience as a polio survivor. He is from RC, Jakarta Central, District 3410. He is an architect by profession. He has been holding various Rotary posts both in his club and district, but he has been a plenary speaker, speaking of various Rotary district events on the topic of polio, Rotary, and me. And he will inspire us today. PP John, the virtual platform is yours, and you will inspire us again today. Thank you. You can share your screen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Distinguished leaders, fellow Rotarians in service. 62 years ago, what happened? Sorry. Distinguished leaders, fellow Rotarians in service. 62 years ago, when I was 4 months old, my body was infected with the polio virus. I became weak and my bones became deformed. Back in the 1950s, that disease was certainly spectacular. It struck, it killed, or it left its permanent trademark on so many of us, polio. My parents believed that I was a curse, evil misfortune, a calamity for the family. So to reverse the curse and to cleanse our household from bad luck and misfortune, I was deposited in the house of God. a convent in Medan, disowned, abandoned, and forsaken. It may sound strange when I recall as a child until today. I never blame my parents. I never blame God. I never blame anyone for mistreating me or for the polio that shaped my life. I was just another one of those children at the convent with my own type of problem, a child of none cared for by nuns. I spent my years among 200 children, some blind, deaf, crippled, and orphans. This meant that some could not hear, some could not see. Me, I just could not walk. That was my specific problem. But my young spirit is strong. Even though the polio took its toll on me, I'm determined to learn how to walk. I crawl for short distances, but most of the time I used to have a pair of steel calipers, leather braces, and a wooden crutch to walk. At weekends and holidays, the parents of the other kids would come for visits, bringing food, sweets, presents, or take them out for the day. I had none of that. Nobody came, nobody brought me anything or anybody. Not only that day, but every school holiday, other children were picked up by their family, but nobody ever asked me even to go outside the convent. No one came for me. I was nobody's child, a child of none cared for by nuns. At one period, the convent had to literally close down for a major renovation. The nuns had no choice but to bring me back to my family. A nun found my parents, but my mother rejected me. She knew that I was her son, but she didn't want me in the house. She felt ashamed and saw it as a bad omen. The nun, however, insisted that I must stay there for at least 2 weeks. They refused, and refused, but finally gave in and allowed me, the outcast son, to stay. What followed was a devastating time for me. I was put at the back of our house in a tiny courtyard, away from my siblings, and only allowed in the house at night or when it rained, and to sleep on the floor. At the end of 2 weeks, I was returned to the convent. The nuns were shocked to see the state I was in. My body was ridden with mosquito bites and many kilos lighter. It became clearer to all I was nobody's child. I felt this way until the age of 13, when Ted came to the convent and entered into my life. That Sunday, June 1973, I waited from early morning, wearing my best clothes, the worn garments which were donated to the orphanage. I dragged myself to the parlor where visitors were received and waited, full of childish hope and faith. He came, we met, he looked at me, he gave me that big, long hug. I felt so much warmth through this immediate contact. He took me out shopping, brought me the new clothes, and gave me my first timepiece, a Timex watch, and gave me my first experience to eat at a restaurant. Ted was a kind man with generous heart, full of compassion. Ted living and working in Singapore. He was a former Red Cross volunteer. He was a Rotarian. Sadly, he passed away in February 1990, not long after my first child was born, where we had the chance to hug his first grandson while he was still being treated at the hospital. He has left a legacy that will be a source of inspiration to others. Frequent visits followed by my new foster father, and gradually drew the attention of some Rotarians and from Singapore and the Netherlands. A doctor was asked to examine my condition. He stated that I was operable. So I took my first plane ride in December 1973 to Singapore to undergo serious orthopedic surgeries, remaining in hospital for 9 months. At first, I was crying because I did not want to be left behind at the hospital. Soon after, I felt reassured when I saw the nuns, just like the nuns who had brought me up. The hospital and the eminent surgeons, impressed by Ted's generosity and never charged for the services rendered to this Indonesian boy. The funds allocated for the surgery, however, didn't have to be used after all. The funds were then used for my education. The convent and nuns cared for me in the early part of my life. Then later, Rotarians took care of me. I was nobody's child. Now I was a child of Rotary. That gave me confidence and love. He changed everything in my life. That was when I began to acknowledge I had become a proper member of the human race. My friends, for many years, I had to struggle and come to terms with my disability. Now I felt empowered to utilize and display my abilities. Polio is a viral disease which may affect the spinal cord, causing muscle weakness and paralysis. Polio left me with a lot of advantages. I learned not only to be independent, but to insist on it. All I must do is to be willing to accept my circumstances, and I get to feel serene and happy. We are very close to making history by defeating polio. Today, only 2 countries remain polio endemic, down from more than 125 countries in 1988. Millions of children have been saved from the death and crippling disability thanks to Rotary and its partners' effort to eradicate polio in the last 36 years. If we fail in our effort, we will lose a global investment that now totals more than $10 billion, including over $1.7 billion from Rotarians. We are this close. If we don't get efficacious, polio will be back, stronger than ever. It's just a plane ride away. Our donation for polio is not going down the drain. We must keep fighting. We Rotarians have been given the greatest opportunity in history to end this disease. We can only end it with Rotary leadership. Let us all take immense pride that our voice, our commitment, and our actions are creating our legacy of doing good in the world. Polio is not over. There are millions of survivors. Some of us are living with substantial physical disability and have had rewarding family lives and productive careers in fields where we never have to mention or even think about polio. The late past President Ted Ponti leaving a lasting impression on me and to everybody with his Rotary spirit. In April 2004, I joined the Rotary Club in Jakarta. Emotionally, what have I learned? That life is unpredictable, that things happen, that we need to be ready to adapt because life doesn't always turn out the way we expected. We must learn to accept help from others, be grateful for help we get, and thankful for whatever abilities we still have. As I build up confidence, I begin to aspire to be like those who have helped me all this time, not to be a nun, but to be a Rotarian, to be not at the receiving end of help and relief, but to be at the giving end, to be a giver, not a givee. Since then, I have been fighting relentlessly for the causes of Rotary. First and foremost, to raise awareness of polio, the sickness that so deeply influenced my own life and cannot be cured, only prevented. Rotary has done so much for me, and this way I can give something back. Rotary has given me the best experiences in my life. This major donor pains and service above self pain means much to me. It gives a feeling of accomplishment and milestone in my life, a source of pride. Right now, I sense the passion. I felt the energy from all of you in this Zoom to reach the finish line, to make sure that polio will one day exist only in the annal of medical history. So come along on this journey with me. My own family has also learned from my disability. They learned to be resourceful, helpful, sensitive, and accepting of people different from themselves. I refuse to stop living my life because I'm in control of my destiny and refuse to roll over and play the blame game. As you can see, my life, much like yours, has been a series of difficulties, some funny, some awful, but none as bad as it always seemed at the time. Nonetheless, I've been blessed with a wonderful life and great experiences of living. Without polio, I'm convinced none of this would have been possible. I and my family do pray a lot, but Rotary affairs also occupy a major portion of my daily activities because I believe the hands that serve is holier than the lips that pray. My friends, before I finish, I just want to say that the unsung heroes are still out there. Even today, they are immunizing kids with some major threats, so we need to thank them. We are this close to ending polio. We must remind ourselves that we have not reached the bus stop in our world polio virus eradication. It's just a comma. Hopefully, my story will help my fellow Rotarians understand why we must continue to fight this disease until it is fully eradicated. Thank you.
Thank you, PP Johnson. Yet again, you inspire us again with your talk. And each time I listen to you, I get new messages and new inspiration. Thank you again. Now, Rotarians, without further ado, I would like to go on to our next speaker. Just before that, Malaysia, or in those days, colonialist Malaya, was not spared from polio either, the ravages of polio. We have seen our fair share of devastating polio cases in Malaysia. Many would have had relatives or friends with polio, and in order to talk about polio in Malaysia, there's no one better than our next speaker to speak on polio in Malaysia, past, present, and future. Dr. Musa Muhammad Nordin is a senior pediatrician and neonatologist at KPJ Damansara Hospital. He was the past president of FIMA, Federation of Islamic Medical Association, and have involved in many humanitarian projects, both nationally and internationally. Most of all, recently we have been calling him the rock star of vaccine, and as a seafood to me. Without much further ado, Dr. Musa, the platform is yours, and I will share the slide for you. Sorry. Just a bit. Sorry again. Okay, yeah, that's all.
Right.
You can. I'll go to remote control. That
Can you pass me the remote control, please?
Yes, done.
You will move, Silva.
No, one move. I already passed.
You can move it for me?
Yeah, I can move it for you, Dato. No problem. Right. Okay.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Silva, for that very kind introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Peace and blessings dan selamat pagi. Distinguished members of Rotary Malaysia, respected members of the panel, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this kind opportunity to share with you my thoughts on polio in Malaysia, past, present, and future. And as was mentioned by Selva, I not only represent the Malaysian Pediatric Association, but also the International Federation of Islamic Medical Associations, because we work in difficult areas in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nigeria, the Sudan. And also I work with very young doctors and volunteers in Malaysia in the Islamic Medical Association Response and Relief Team, which has been teaming very, very efficiently with the Ministry of Health. This is the brief of my discussion today, looking at the past, very quickly at the vaccine, and then looking at the present and looking at the crystal ball of the future, and then conclude. Next, Selva. Yes, it is extremely easy to forget the seriousness of vaccine preventable diseases. It may be smallpox, it may be polio, it may be measles, and today it is COVID. This child has spent virtually his lifetime in this iron lung. I think the oldest is gentleman 75 years old in this iron lung. Next slide, Silva. And you see the parents, the families were so frightened of this disease then, which they did not know. They never knew what transmitted it. They thought it was mosquitoes, so they were spraying DDT. So they had their kids in their homes. They refused to send the kids to summer school. Churches were closed. Theaters were closed. You know, it was a lockdown. It was an MCO, self-imposed. And when the vaccine was available, they lined up their kids for kilometers to get the vaccine. So it is very, very true what was mentioned by George Santayana, a Spanish philosopher in 1905. Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Next, Silva. These are the last cases of polio. In the Americas, it was in 1994. Malaysia is in the West Pacific. Our last case was in the year 2000. Next, it was Europe in 2002, followed by Southeast Asia in 2014. And last year, next slide, Silva, we celebrated a wild polio-free Africa in the midst of COVID on 25th August 2020. And we are left with two nations, next Silva, in the East Mediterranean region, namely in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Next Silva, thank you. This is the story in Malaysia. We had the oral polio vaccine in 1972 in our national immunization program. 5 years later, we had the largest outbreak, 121 cases of wild polio virus. And with the determination of the Ministry of Health and NGOs, Rotary, we were able to eliminate polio in Malaya. 1992 was the last case. And as part of the Western Pacific region, we were polio-free in the year 2000. And 8 years later, we switched from the oral polio to the injectable polio as part of the combination, 5-in-1 combination. And 8 years later, we completely discontinued the oral polio because of the risk of vaccine associated paralytic poliomyelitis. But bang, 27 years later, we had our first reported polio case. Next, Silva. This is very quickly looking at the vaccine. This was the first vaccine in 1955 by Jonas Salk. Next, Silva. When asked who owned the patent, he said, "Who owns the sun?" So he never made a patent on the vaccine. Next, Silva. And then we had the oral polio vaccine from Sabin in 1961. Can you imagine? In the 1950s, it was about 15,000 cases a year. Then in the 60s, it was down to 1,000 cases a year. This is in the United States. And with the oral vaccine, it was down to 10 cases per year. Next, Silva. But this was the global story, a very sad story. And if you look at the year 1985, 1,000 paralyzed child every day for the next 350 days. And with the vaccine as part of the legacy of Salk and Sabin, we are now down to less than 100 cases. Next, Silva. Now, 2020 was the last case in Nigeria. Next, Silva. And this is the scenario in 2020. All the green drop spots are the circulating vaccine-derived poliomyelitis, mainly in Africa, some in Afghanistan and Pakistan, right? Now, the red dots, this is wild polio, is only in 2 countries, But this is where we came into the story 27 years later, when we had our first case of circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus 1. Next, Eva. And that's the Malaysian child who had polio. He was 3 months old. He was only partially immunized. So it's very important. The message needs to go through all our parents, guardians. Please make sure your kids are fully immunized, especially within the context of COVID, when we are very fearful of going to hospital. Make sure you see your general practitioners, your family physicians, and get your kids and yourself immunized. The other 3 cases are all immigrants, undocumented immigrants. They were never immunized. And that's a lesson for any government to make sure that we also be responsible for the marginalized, for the refugees, for the migrant workers, yeah, for the undocumented migrants, for the stateless children in Malaysia. Next, Silva. And we've continued to be very vigilant. That's why we had samplings of our water, of our sewage, and we've had surveillance with the acute flaccid paralysis to make sure we don't miss any one case of polio. Next, Silva. And during that 1 year, from 27 December until the end of last year, we were determined, the government and all the other institutions, and namely Rotary at the forefront, to make sure that all our kids, 95% immunization is achieved. Next, Silva. And you see that this is the barometer. The bivalent oral polio achieved 98%. Second dose, 94%. Next, Silva. And these are all the unsung heroes that PP John talked about. You know, the ones you don't see on the webinars, but they are on the ground, hands-on, to make sure that every child below 15 years old gets the vaccine. Yeah, that's my young doctors and young volunteers in the Emirat who were in Sempurna in Lahad Datu. Next, Siva. These are the international players, yeah? Rotary, WHO, the CDC in the United States, the United Nations Children's Fund, Bill and Melinda Gates, and Gavi. I'm told that for every $1 Rotary donates, they will triple the amount. So this is the challenge. Next, Silva. All right, and we are definitely winning. If you look at the wild polio virus up until May, last year we had 46, up until May, it's down to 2. If you look at the circulating vaccine-derived polio virus, we were 101 last year until May, we are now down to 75, right? Next, Silva. So this is the strategy for the end game. You know, the goalpost has been shifted from 2000, 2005, 2018. Now the end game strategy has shifted the goalpost to 2023. Next, Silva. Right? But we must eradicate polio just like we eradicated smallpox in 1980. And hopefully together we can do it again with the polio endgame strategy in 2023. Next, Silva. Right, as was mentioned by John Teo, these are the unsung heroes in the mountains, in the deserts, in the snow-capped mountains, yeah? Right, making sure that every child gets his or her drop of polio. That's, I believe, is my last slide. Thank you again, Selva and Rotary Malaysia for this kind opportunity. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dato. As usual, you have summarized all the salient points and in a crystal clear and concise form for those who are non-medical. It was a fantastic talk. Thank you very much, Dato. We will listen to you again during the question and answer session. Rotarian friends, while polio is still endemic in 2 countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan, how are we faring there now? With the onslaught of COVID-19 pandemic, it's going to become more worse. And Dr. Hemant Shukla is the best person to tell us that. He is a team leader for the country support team for polio at the Eastern Mediterranean Regional Office of WHO. He'll be talking to us. Polio, WHO, is polio endgame strategy right on target? Dr. Hemant, the floor is yours and you can share the slides. I will unshare mine. Dr. Hemant? Yeah.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Dr. Selva, and thank you, Rotary Malaysia, for organizing this and inviting me on World Polio Day for this webinar. And in fact, before I start, let me say thank you, Dr. Musa, for that excellent presentation on polio status in Malaysia. And you indeed covered a lot of ground on polio, a lot of information on that. And thank you, Rotarian John. It was very sobering to hear from you. And it was very inspiring and motivating, as I could see in the chat. Also, the colleagues have been putting comments there. So with that, let me start as Dr. Selva mentioned, and before that, Dr. Musa also mentioned that polio is endemic in 2 countries as of now, and that is Afghanistan and Pakistan. And both of them are part of Eastern Mediterranean region, EMRO. So I will not repeat, a lot of it has been already said. And these are some recent milestones. So Southeast, as we know that for polio, it is the regions which are certified as a polio free. So WHO certified Southeast Asia region as a polio free region in 2014. And we had type 2 was certified, type 2 virus. So as we know that wild polio viruses are 3 types. And out of that, type 2 virus was certified as eradicated in 2015, and type 3 was certified as eradicated in 2019. And then, as it was mentioned earlier, that WHO Africa region had been certified as a polio-free in August 2020. So that's now that leaves as EMRO, WHO Eastern Mediterranean region, as the only polio endemic region. Now, if we look at that, then where are we now? So as of now, we in polio eradication are facing 2 challenges, twin challenges. One is endemicity for WPV1, which is wild polio virus. And at the same time, we are facing outbreaks of circulating vaccine-derived polio viruses. Now, in this map, you see that this was already presented by some colleagues. You can see here that these are Afghanistan, Pakistan, where wild polio virus is still endemic. And at the same time, these 2 countries also have Cvdpv2 outbreak, which started in 2019. Apart from that, these green dots are Cvdpv2 cases. You can see that most of middle part of sub-Saharan Africa, which has Cvdpv2 outbreaks. And then along with that, we have outbreak of Cvdpv1 also, which currently we can see that it is in Madagascar and Yemen. And earlier, as Dr. Musa was mentioning, that in Malaysia there was, but 2020 saw the last of Cvdpv1 case, and after that we did not see in Malaysia. We come to last 6 months, we see that situation is better. We see that the transmission of Cvdpv2 is decreasing, and that leaves, apart from endemic countries, 9 countries giving Cvdpv2 cases. Now, as it was mentioned that these 2 countries are endemic, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and if we look at these 2 countries, we can see that Pakistan, for example, which had 147 polio cases in 2019, and 84 cases in 2020. This year, it has just 1 polio case. Similarly, Afghanistan has also just 1 polio case. Now, these 2 countries, if we say that these 2 countries are only countries which are remaining endemic, they have reason for it. I think all of you must be hearing in news about what is happening in Afghanistan. It has a lot of security-related challenges. It had access-related challenges. Out of around 10 million children who under 5 children in Afghanistan, around 3.5 million children were not accessible for polio vaccine for more than 3 years. So 3 years, these 3.5 million children could not be vaccinated. There is an intense cross-border population movement between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Across the border, it is similar culture, there's a lot of population movement which keeps on happening there. Program had been very diligent in trying to reach all those children and trying to overcome those challenges. And what we are seeing is early signs of success, but what we need is a cautious optimism that it is a positive, but what it needs is a perseverance and cautious optimism to take it to the logical end and stop the polio transmission. Now, if we look here that in 2021, both the countries had just one polio cases. And these polio cases were also in January. So since January, neither Afghanistan nor Pakistan has detected any wild polio virus case. And these two countries, they also conduct extensive environmental surveillance. So that is the sewage samples are taken and tested for wild polio virus. And what you are seeing here in the blue graphs, so these are environmental samples where polio virus is detected. And you can see here what we are seeing lately since September 2022, there is a steady decline in the detection of virus in environment. This shows that our surveillance, which is running where we are detecting, and actually the number of polio cases has gone down to just one. This is also consistent with what viruses are being detected in environment. The number of, there is very clear clearing of environmental from wild polio virus. You can see that after February, no virus has been detected in Afghanistan, even in environment. And in Pakistan, there has been steady decline, and we are detecting less and less polio viruses in environment. Now, as I was mentioning that these two countries also had Cvdpv2 outbreaks. In 2019, Pakistan started detecting Cvdpv2 virus. This outbreaks spread to different parts of Pakistan, then also spread to Afghanistan, as you are seeing. But now what we are seeing that due to multiple focused, targeted vaccination campaigns and effort by the program, and as you said, the local unsung heroes, now we are seeing that outbreak is nearly over for Cvdpv2 as well. Now, we said that there is just one polio case. So we have excellent opportunities. We are having historic lowest level of transmission of WPV1 in these two countries. This is unique opportunity to eradicate. We need to seize this opportunity, capitalize on that. What GPI needs to do, what both the countries need to do is, as I was mentioning, that in Afghanistan, around 3.5 million children had never received or had not received vaccination opportunity for 3 years. But just 2 weeks back, the access has been gained in Afghanistan. So now all the children in Afghanistan can be reached with the polio vaccine. And on 8th November, after 3.5 years, Afghanistan will have a nationwide campaign where all the 10 million children could be reached. What is important is sustaining the access which has been just gained. And for Pakistan, there has been very, very strong government ownership, which is seen lately. What is needed is sustaining and percolating this ownership to the district level and the lower level. There is GPIs along with both the governments are working on community engagement and ownership to enhance the vaccine acceptance. Program is also working on fine-tuning operations at the district and frontline level, particularly focusing on high-risk areas. And at the same time, when we have very low level of transmission, what is important is that we should have a robust and rapid response to any new transmission which we detect. We should go on a war footing, emergency footing to respond to those new detections. And we need to have a high quality surveillance to know that where the virus is circulating. Now, for all these efforts, GPI has created endemic hub, which is based in Amman. And this GPI endemic hub is garnering support of whole GPI and even beyond to provide support to Afghanistan, Pakistan. And also in EMRO, a regional polio subcommittee has been formed by 10 health ministers of 10 different countries with aim to foster political commitment and forge collective action for supporting these two endemic countries. Now for Cvdpv2 outbreaks, I think I mentioned that most of these outbreaks are Cvdpv2. GPI has developed new tools, tactics, and what are new tools? One is that strong focus on political advocacy, having emergency posture, clear accountability. Sorry, I got muted. I hope everybody was able to hear me.
Yes, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. So then outbreak SOPs have been revised. NOPV2 as a new novel vaccine, OPV2, which is genetically more stable and lesser chances of reverting to circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus. This has been introduced, and technical innovations in surveillance and sample processing are being implemented. Now with that, just going to, I think Dr. Musa had presented a slide on Endgame Strategy. So now GPI, after looking at the challenges which came in Endgame Strategy, revised the whole Endgame Strategy, and new strategy has been developed, which is called Polio Eradication Strategy 2022 to 2026. This strategy will officially start in January 2022, although implementation has started. And strategy has dual goals. So first is to permanently interrupt all WPVs, particularly in Afghanistan, Pakistan. And goal 2 is to stop Cvdpv2 transmission and prevent outbreak in non-endemic countries. Here I have given the link, and anybody who is interested can just go on that link and will get the strategy. Now, if you look at this new strategy and the milestones which are there, so most important milestone is interruption of wild poliovirus transmission, as well as interruption of all the Cvdpv2 outbreaks, which is for 2023 and 2023. A new strategy is aiming to stop wild poliovirus as well as Cvdpv2. And 2026, certification of global eradication of wild poliovirus 1. Now, this strategy has a strategic framework, and as I was mentioning, that it has two goals to deliver on vision of polio-free world, that is for wild poliovirus and CVDPV outbreaks. It has 5 strategic objectives on which this whole strategy is based, and that includes community engagement, political advocacy, integrated efforts, and outbreak response, and sensitive surveillance. And this, I have taken a clip from Rotary's second virtual convention, which was held in June 2021, where DG WHO mentioned that when COVID-19 struck, you didn't abandon your vision of a polio-free world. You redoubled your efforts. And here you is essentially to Rotary and all the people involved in polio. And I want you to know that your investment in public health your investment in public health will inspire future generations to live up to your motto of service above self. And this is, COVID-19 had been very challenging time for polio eradication, but as DG WHO mentioned, the polio, all the Rotarian as well as people in the field, they actually got repurposed and started supporting in COVID pandemic. And a lot of effort was done by all the people on the ground. So let me close with this by saying this, that we are closer than ever before. We are having just 2 wild poliovirus cases, and we need to seize this opportunity. Rotary has always been very inspiring, committed, motivated, and focused. And we who are working on polio eradication, along with all the Rotarians, we like to take this opportunity to thank you, all the Rotarians, for your commitment and unwavering support which polio eradication has been receiving. Thank you, Dr. Selva. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Herman. Thank you. It was an excellent presentation. And for the medical point of view, excellent summary, excellent data. Some of my medical colleagues asked whether we can have your slides actually, with your permission. Thank you. And I think we should thank all the three speakers who have so far delivered excellent talks now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have heard about an experience of polio survivor from a Rotarian in Indonesia. Now let us go back to our local front and listen to one of our celebrity, Mr. Patrick Teo. Mr. Patrick Teo is an actor, radio personality, had a career spanning more than 3 decades in radio, TV, stage, and also movies. What we often hear is his voice. So now let us hear from the voice of Malaysia. Mr. Patrick, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Selva, and thank you for being so kind to me by saying that I've been in the business for 3 decades, which makes me much younger than the 74 years I am. But anyway, I am very, very humbled and privileged to listen to all the presentations so far, especially the experiences of John from Indonesia. Fortunately or unfortunately, I do not have as touching a story to tell as Pa John, but I shall try and relate to you my experiences as a polio survivor, if you like. As far as I can remember, I think I contracted polio when I was 8 years old. But before I go any further, I want to say that polio for me has been something that I've lived with since I was 8 years old. And I thank God that, you know, very fortunately, it has not made a hell of a lot of difference in the way I live my life and the way I do my work and work in my profession. But my earliest memories of polio was when I was 8 years old. I remember that after a visit to my maternal grandmother's house, I think it was during a Chinese festival where the whole family gathered for meals and so on, that I contracted a fever. And for at least a couple of weeks, I think, my fever did not subside. In fact, it went up to as high as 103 degrees. Of course, my parents were worried sick and they took me to every doctor that they knew in Ipoh to try and get to the cause of my fever, but nobody could bring the fever down. And as far as I can remember, after a couple of weeks, the fever subsided. And then I found that I could not walk anymore. In fact, I was more or less paralyzed, not 100%, but I was paralyzed at least from my waist down, and I could not walk anymore. This, of course, made my mother very, very worried. And she took me to, like John's parents, she believed that some evil had befallen me. So she took me to temples and consulted mediums and so on to try and get, well, supernatural way, I suppose, to cure whatever affliction I had, but to no avail. And finally, she found a Chinese, what do you call them? Alternative medicine practitioner in Ipoh, who prescribed a soup of herbs that I drank, which was, it tasted really, really horrible, but my mother forced me to drink it. And after a few days, some sensation returned to my legs. I mean, up to today, I'm not sure whether it was due to the herbs or it was something that happened naturally. But after taking the herbs for a couple of weeks, some sensation returned to my legs and I could actually stand up, and after a few more days, could hobble along. Like I said, the memory of this period of my life is very vague because as a boy, I didn't know anything about polio. My mother was an uneducated woman. And back then we had no internet, we had no information. I'm not sure either of my parents knew that it was polio that was my problem. But anyway, after taking the herbs, I could hobble around for a bit. And I don't know what happened after that, that made my parents send me to the Singapore General Hospital, in which I had an operation on my right leg. Now, the polio affected both my legs, left and right. But when I was in the hospital in Singapore, I had an operation on my right foot, actually, which subsequently I found out was to correct the bone deformation that had occurred. I stayed in Singapore in the hospital for at least 3 or 4 months. And when I came out of the hospital, they fitted me with a pair of leather and steel calipers for my right leg, which I subsequently found out was to actually correct to try and correct the deformation on my right foot. So I wore that for a while, came back to my hometown, Ipoh, and went back to school. As a young boy, I didn't really know what was going on, except that I had this pair of heavy leather and steel boots on. And I don't remember any of my schoolmates or classmates making too much fun of me wearing those things. But I do remember that one day I had a fight with one of my classmates, and I used the heavy boots and kicked him in the shin, which got me a trip to the headmaster's office and a couple of strokes of the cane. But what I'm trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, is as a polio survivor, life has been pretty good to me, because from the time when I was 8 years old up until maybe 60, I never thought of myself as a polio survivor and that polio had done really very much to affect the way I live my life. I went about like a normal person, although some rather inappropriate people would say, "Hey, why you walk so funny?" But that was about all the comments that I got from people who looked at the way I walked, or And as some of you probably know, I grew up out of school, and then I had a job as a radio announcer. Then I eventually even got into acting on television, on stage, in films. And in none of these careers that I eventually went into was my polio ever an issue. Nobody ever said, "Oh, we'd like you to act, but since you got this polio problem with your legs, we can't use you." It has never happened, even up to today. And I'm very, very lucky for that. What else can I tell you about polio? Oh, when I was 60 years old, I began to feel, like I said, it was the start of the first time I felt that I was a polio survivor. Why? Because when I was around 60 years old, I began to feel that my legs were somehow not as strong as they had been. And that was when I started reading up about post-polio syndrome and what the symptoms were. And possibly I could have PPS. Now, when I was younger, when I was in school, when I was in my teenage years, and when I was in my younger years, although polio affected both my legs, I had almost total control of my body movements. In fact, when I was younger, I could play a fairly decent game of badminton. I could run, I could walk. I think the furthest I've walked, if I remember, when I was in Form 5, I walked with my polio-affected legs 16 miles and thought nothing of it. So until I reached age 60, I felt very, very normal. But now, as I age, my legs are getting weaker. In fact, when I walk around, when I move around, it causes undue fatigue, which is becoming a problem, but not really, if you know what I mean. So unlike the experiences of Pak John, mine are actually quite normal. And I'm very, very thankful for that. Yeah, those are my experiences as a polio survivor. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Thank you very much. It was still inspiring to hear you. I mean, what you said was exactly what we used to read in the medical textbooks. Having fever, and subsequently you get mostly the lower limbs get paralyzed. Most often you get one leg, but some can get both legs. And indeed, what you say about the post-polio syndrome is something that is seen when you age. Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. We will wait for the question and answers. With that, now we have listened to 4 speakers, and I would like to continue with our last speaker. And as you know, Rotarians, we have been informed the obstacles related to polio vaccination program and eradication in the last 2 countries, last frontiers, Afghanistan and Pakistan. And our final speaker, as our DG earlier said, will enlighten us on this. PDG Aziz Memon's Rotary CV is extensive, actually. He is a doyen in Rotary. PDG Aziz Memon wasn't able to hear, therefore, he is engaged with the World Polio Day activities in Pakistan. He has kindly pre-recorded his video, and I'll share it now. PDG Aziz Memon and his wife, Professor Samina, is an anesthetist by profession. Both are Arch Club members, and PDG Aziz Memon is the RI trustee and also the chair for the Polio Plus Pakistan Committee. And he has done a lot of work with polio eradication. Therefore, he has received numerous awards from the Pakistani government, from the United States Congress, and also WHO, and also the Louis Pasteur University from France. With that, let me share the video that Professor PDG Aziz Memon has kindly shared this. Let me see.
Greetings to the Rotarians of District 3300 and my friend, District Governor Bindi. Today is World Polio Day, and we are remembering Professor Jonas Salk on his birth anniversary. We are thankful to him for having given us the polio vaccine. He did not take a single cent. When he was asked that what would be the royalty for this vaccine, he replied that this will be a gift to the children of the world. With these vaccines, we have eradicated polio from almost the whole world. 2 countries are left, Pakistan and Afghanistan. And we hope that we will be able to give you some good news soon. This year, my friends, has been a challenging year with the global pandemic, COVID. which has taken so far 1.7 million lives and has crippled economies around the world. Rotary has taken up the challenge. Rotary has spent $46 million in our struggle to stop COVID from expanding. My friends, Rotary Foundation has not stopped looking at other avenues of service. In this pandemic year, we approved 467 district grants totaling $32.4 million. Number of district grants, disaster grants, which were approved at $30.7 million. Number of global grants approved this year was 2,607, with a total funding of $143.6 million. This was the first year we started scale grant. I know DG Bindi asked me for the slides of this grant, and I'm sure that she is working to put up an application for scale grant. So we approved one scale grant, and this was for fighting malaria. And this was of $2 million. $2 million came from a foundation in USA and $2 million from Bill Melinda Gates Foundation. So this is a $6 million grant. The past Rotary year, we had set up a target of $410 million. With your support, with your generosity, we surpassed that. And we collected almost $441 million. Thank you, my friends. Thank you. We spent $143 million same year for global grants. Polio Challenge Fund was $50 million, which also was surpassed. We got $100 million from Bill Melinda Gates Foundation. Thus, we were able to spend $152.9 million for fighting polio across the world. Donations to the Rotary Foundation at this time when we run the last leg are very, very important. Please do not stop from giving. Please continue donating to the Rotary Foundation Polio Plus program, and we will be able to meet the challenge. We are contributing, adding to the Rotary Endowment Trust also, and by 2025, we will reach our target of $2.025 billion. Coming to polio, the good news is that the last 8 months, there has been no case of wild polio in Pakistan and in Afghanistan. Passing 8 months was quite hectic, a big challenge. And we hope that we continue the same thing and finish 1 year without any wild polio case, so that we have 3 years for getting this certification. The red slide which you are seeing is of India, which shows that how the numbers came down and then went up and again came down. The same has happened in Pakistan. The numbers went up, came down, and again went up, and now coming down, down, down. And now if you look at the samples, they are negative. The numbers are down. We are having no case now. So we hope that we continue that trend. Advocacy is very important. At the district level, at the district council level, at the province level, at the national level, our Rotarians are involved in appealing to everyone to support the polio program. The Rotary President and Foundation Trustee are in a meeting with Prime Minister of Pakistan and with the Chief of Army Staff. We have to continue doing this. We need to work on advocacy, and we have to keep reminding the government also that we are not done with polio so far, and we will continue all the support. In Pakistan, security is also a challenge. We need to take our armed forces and the security personnel with us. Every time one of the policemen guarding the polio vaccinator gets killed, it is very sad. It is very sad. Any life, human life lost, and that also for a noble cause is a sad thing. We hope that the blood, the lives of these innocent people will not go waste, and we will remember them. In polio eradication efforts, I have just picked up a few slides because I know that you have other things also today on the World Polio Day, and you have quite a number of speakers, as I saw from the agenda. So we have got many challenges. And this is just a small graph pointing out on how the challenges are. And I will be too pleased to share it with DG Bindi. Advocacy, as I mentioned to you, is important. We train the polio workers. We have set up training camps, training centers. Rotary has set up everywhere. Now, the left one is in Bannu, which is right in the north where at the moment there is snow. We have put up solar water filtration plants all over the country, some with the help of Coca-Cola, some with the help of UNDP, and some with the help of the Rotary Global Grants. Giving clean drinking water to this deprived community is very necessary. We just have got funds with the help of a global grant of the Rotarians in Japan who visited Pakistan for participating in the NIDs. I would urge your district 3300 to support us in this effect, in this case also, by doing a global grant with us for clean drinking water, and also to come and participate in our NIDs. We have Rotarians coming from Japan, we have Rotarians coming from USA, UK, Canada, Korea, all over. So why not Malaysia? DG Bindi, please bring a delegation and we will let you know the next NID dates. One NID has just ended and the results so far which we have received are encouraging. Our advocacy, I said, continues. With the permanent transit posts we have set up, whether Torkham border, Chaman border with Afghanistan, or at all crossings, we have got our permanent transit posts where the volunteers go in from one bus to another, one train to another, and give the drops. An independent report said that last year, the polio drops given by the volunteers at the permanent transit post set up by Rotary was 3 million. It's a big number. We have got resource centers in most of the high-risk, super high-risk districts where we provide a total package. These are in Bannu, these are in Peshawar, these are in Malakand, these are in Nowshera, in the slum area of Karachi. So these are also a big relief and big help to the poor, deprived community. My friends, I have been involved in polio since I joined Rotary, almost 28 years back. And for the last several years, I've been working as the national chair and now as a trustee also of the Rotary Foundation. It's my passion, it's my desire, it's my goal. The world becomes polio-free. Before I leave you for other programs, I'll share a small story of 2015. At that time, the Taliban were in total control of North and South Waziristan. They had banned OPV. I happened to visit Peshawar to hand over wheelchairs to the superintendent of Lady Reading Hospital, the largest hospital in Peshawar. While I was sitting with the superintendent, it was a big room. I saw in a corner on a sofa a man with a turban sitting with a child, 18 months. I asked the superintendent, who is this man? And why he's come here? He told me that he is a Taliban leader. And he has come here because his 18 months old child had been diagnosed with polio. I told him, can I go and sit with him? He said, no, I will not recommend. But anyway, I did not take his recommendation. I picked up my cup of tea and slowly moved towards the sofa where the Taliban leader was sitting and his child, 18 months old, with him. I offered my greetings to the leader, sat down and started talking generally. Then I mentioned to the Taliban leader that, look at your child suffering from polio. He cannot stand now. If he was given 2 OPV drops, he would have been standing. Listening to this, the color of the face of the Taliban leader became very red. And as he started raising his hands, I could see under his jacket the ammunition he was carrying. I smiled and I told him that no, I am a visitor. I am not come here to fight, nor I am God. So please relax, do as you want. I'm just here. So I mentioned it to you. Then I started sipping my tea. He also cooled down. The baby crawled towards me and I picked up the young boy and put him on my laps. I could see that he was wearing 2 sweaters. So I told the Taliban leader, sir, it's so warm here. He's wearing 2 sweaters. Don't you think it's too much? He replied to me, my friend, I come from the mountains where there is snow. And if I do not put 2 sweaters, he can get flu, he can get pneumonia, and he can die. Now it was my turn. I told the Taliban leader, are you God? How can you say he will die if it is not the wish of God? He was quiet. 2 minutes passed, no one speaking any words. Then I could see that his hand, which was quite heavy, gradually moving towards my hand, putting it on my fingers, holding my fingers tight. And he's whispered to me, forget 2 drops. If you give my son 4 drops, can you walk? I said, no. I said, no, Hansab, he cannot. I will not lie to you. We will do his treatment. We will do physiotherapy. We will do corrective surgery, but he will not be able to walk. Then the Taliban leader said, so what should I do? I said, my friend, you can do a lot for us. You go back to your village. You tell your people, you tell your family that every child under the age of 5 should take 2 OPV drops. Please spread the message. Help us to save the lives of children like your son. He agreed. He said, I'll do it. And once I have done, I'll share a message with you. And after that, you delete my number. I promised him. He took my cell message. After 2 weeks, I got a message from him in Urdu that, my friend, I have done your work. As per the promise, I deleted his number. We need to reach everyone, whatever the security concerns are, and make this world polio free. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, PDG Aziz Memon. Thank you very much. And now, Rotarians, I'm sure that was inspiring. I was editing the video yesterday, and when I heard the last part, it made me immediately go to endpolio.org and donate the amount I mentioned earlier in the chat box. I would like to encourage every Rotarian in District 3300 to do the similar. Whatever amount that you can donate, please do so. Because we are so near, yet there's another 2 or 3 years that we should do our part and close the gap. Thank you. With that, we have come to a closing of our 5 speakers. Now, I would like to invite any questions from the participants and also the Rotarians to our speakers. There was one question, even though it was answered, it was explained by both Dr. Musa and Dr. Heyman, but it was a question by PAG Shankar Kalanathan from RC Butterworth. He was asking about this vaccine-derived polio virus, the mutant, and anything to do with same thing like COVID. Dr. Heyman or Dr. Musa, would you like to take the question again?
Okay. Dr. Musa, will you like to go ahead or?
No, go ahead, Dr. Herman.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Musa, and thank you, Dr. Selva. So, as I think it was put in chat as well, that we have 3 variety of polio viruses, type 1, type 2, type 3. And so they are wild polio viruses. Out of 3, type 2, type 3 has been eradicated, wild polio virus 1 is there. Now, when we say that type 2 has been eradicated, it is wild polio virus type which has been eradicated. Now, the oral polio vaccine which is given to the children, if it goes to the community which is under-immunized, if the community is under-immunized, this vaccine, it starts mutating because community is under-immunized, there is immunity gap. Every cycle it goes in the gut, it mutates every cycle it takes. So, for example, for every 1 month of circulation, there will be 1 nucleotide change in a genetic makeup of the virus. And when it exceeds 6 nucleotide change, it becomes what we call circulating vaccine-derived polio viruses. So these are vaccine-derived polio viruses which have mutated from the vaccine virus. Now, then the question comes that what to do about that? As I was showing in my presentation, that there is a lot of Cvdpv2 outbreak which we are seeing. So one, and I think the most important thing which should be done is increasing the population immunity. So, for example, the Malaysia outbreak which we had with Cvdpv1, it occurred because of immunity gap against type 1 of virus. So if we have a good routine immunization system where IPV and BOPV, which is provided, that will boost population immunity and it will prevent any such outbreak. And once such outbreak happens, then outbreak is to be responded immediately with the type 2 containing vaccine, which is either monovalent type 2 vaccine, MOPV2, or recently there's this year itself, a new vaccine has been introduced, which is called novel OPV2. This novel OPV2 is genetically more stable as compared to monovalent OPV2, and it has much lesser chances of reverting back for Cvdpv2. So with that, let me stop and request if Dr. Musa will like to add something.
Dr. Musa?
Excellent summary, Dr. Herman. So that's why one of the strategies of the Endgame to end polio is to shift from oral polio to enhance inactivated polio, i.e. the injectable polio. Malaysia did this in 2008, so our injectable polio is part of the 5-in-1. And with injectable polio, the risk of mutation is 0. So as was brilliantly explained by our colleague, eventually we need to shift to inactivated polio before we even plan, for total eradication of polio. Thank you very much.
On the same note, for Dr. Musa and Dr. Heyman, I mean, we have covered most of the areas, but then changing to the inactivated polio would have been a very heavy burden for the governments. How do you go about, how do you look forward to that actually? Dr. Heyman?
So Dr. Selva, actually in 2016, there was a switch, 2016 April actually. In 2016 April, globally, in the routine immunization, wherever TOPV was used, it has been switched to BOPV, bivalent OPV.
Yep.
So this BOPV has antigen against type 1 and type 3 virus, not type 2. And when the switch was happened, then routine immunization schedule also was modified to include IPV as well. So now if we see that the most of the countries have either IPV only as a routine immunization or IPV and BOPV. So type 2 has already been taken out from the routine immunization schedule, and all the countries are giving at least 1 dose of IPV. And recently, SAGE working group has approved even 2nd dose of IPV in routine immunization. So it is not matter of introducing now, it is already all the countries have this in their schedule and are working on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There are no other questions on the chat box. I would like to, I mean, we are just right time. I would like to ask our speakers whether they have any last message to say to the audience. I would like to start with our two polio survivor speakers, PP Johnson and Mr. Patrick. Do you have anything to say to the audience? If you were to change time and go back, would you have seen the polio eradicated during your time itself? Mr. Patrick?
Yeah, of course, if I could go back in time, I would have chosen to be born a few years later so I could be vaccinated at birth. But what I want to say, Selva, is that congratulations to all you Rotarians for doing what you're doing. It's, from what I've heard, wonderful work and very successful work that you've been doing and continue to do. So all the best of luck to all you Rotarians and everybody working to end polio now. Thank you.
There was a question in the chat box. You were always nicknamed as Voice of Malaysia. Would you like to be the voice of Rotary in end polio, Mr. Patrick?
Yes, of course. I already have participated in a Rotary poster campaign, I think.
Yes, I saw that actually. Quite yeah.
I mean, the poster was a small one because the big ones were reserved for people like Jackie Chan.
But I think you are the Jackie Chan of Malaysia. Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Pak John, do you have any last words to say, Pak John?
Yes. I would say that we are this close to ending polio. So we must remind ourselves that we have not reached the bus stop in our wild polio virus eradications. It's just a comma. So hopefully my story will help my fellow Rotarians understand why we must continue to fight this disease until it is fully eradicated.
Thank you, Pak John. Now back to our two medical speakers, Dr. Musa and Dr. Heyman. Do you have any last words to say to our Rotarians and also the member of public with regards to end polio in focus or in any vaccine preventable diseases? Dr. Musa?
Thanks, Silva. In 2019, when Datuk Bindi asked me what conference can the Rotary mood to make an impact to the community in Malaysia, and I suggested that we should be mainstreaming the issues of the marginalized communities, you know, the stateless children, the undocumented immigrants, the refugees, the migrant workers. And true enough, they organized a conference. They brought together many NGOs in the work of health and education of children. And I can relate to that conference, and I can report that as part of the conference, initiative of the conference, we now have clinics. Yeah, 3 clinics in Klang Valley, where 100,000 refugees are, and then in the north we have a clinic in Kedah, and in the south we have a clinic in Johor. These are the large concentrations of refugees and other marginalized communities, and we are actually vaccinating the children and their adults and their adolescents who have missed out on vaccination. So that's something excellent that was initiated by you guys in Rotary, and hope we can do more of such for health and education of these marginalized communities. Well done, Rotary.
Thank you, thank you, Dr. Heyman.
Thank you, Dr. Selva. And in fact, let me first start with saying that thank you to you and the Rotary District for organizing this World Polio Day event. And it was indeed a pleasure. And, you know, when I reflect back in my 20 years in polio, when I have been involved since 2001 and worked in India and Eastern Africa and Afghanistan, Pakistan, and most of the Middle Eastern countries, all the places I have seen that Rotary has been very closely engaged and has been motivating, garnering support from head of states and providing support to the frontline workers. So Rotary keeps on motivating all the people who are at the front line and provide support. So thank you all the Rotarians who are on the call and who are not on the call. We from GPI will are taking this opportunity to express our thank you and thank you to all the Rotarians.
Thank you,
Thank you, Dr. Sela.
Thank you. There was one last question there, but it wasn't related to polio. I don't know whether we can take that. Dr. Musa, it's just, I know it's about COVID-19. There's a question from Rotarian Freddie Lee from RC Johor Bahru about why is COVID-19 mutating so fast compared to polio, which has been there for a long time. Maybe a 1 or 2 minute question answer, Dr. Musa?
Well, I'm not sure I know the answer to that question. We've had Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and now we are dealing with Delta, which is causing havoc throughout the entire globe. But trust me, if we really are as passionate about the vaccine as we were with the oral polio vaccine and the injectable polio vaccine, as was campaigned by Rotary and their other collaborators, then I am sure we would be able to depress the variants of concern that are faced with. That's why it's extremely important, at least in Malaysia and in the rest of the world, that we achieve 90% total immunity. Because you remember, COVID Delta, the reproduction number is 5 to 7, which is one guy will pass to 5 to 7 guys. It's as bad as, it's worse, slightly worse than polio, which is 4 to 6. But with the vaccine, we've been able to virtually eliminate polio. And if we work passionately, like Rotary has always been, and I think Rotary needs now to put both feet in the COVID fight and make sure that everyone is passionate about the vaccine as they have been with the polio vaccine. I'm sure we can eliminate the variants of concern. Yep, Silva.
Thank you, Dato'. Thank you. I concur with you, Dato'. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you all the speakers for such a wonderful session, the last 5 speakers. Before I end my session, I would like to ask all the delegates to open up the video and we will take a photographic session. I'm not good at this, Yasmin or Bernard or my good friend from RC3310, Rotarian Pauline. Could you do the favor, please? I know you do a very good job at this.
Thank you, Dr. Silva. I will do your good favor. Everybody, please on your video and give your big smile and thumbs up for this wonderful event. Okay, bear with me. There are 6 pages. So everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, hold on to that. Smile, everybody. We are getting there. Okay, the last page. Done. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rotarian Pauline. This is what we call cooperation between districts. Thank you. And I would like now to share my last screen. Without my team, I can't do this. And this is my organizing team. I call A team. Dr. Bernard has been there behind the technical, but he has rushed to a surgery. Myself, PP Sivakumar and PP Haldip is in my Polio Plus team, as well as Peter Ng. Peter Ng is from RC Ipoh, PP Sivakumar from RC Subang, PP Haldip is from RC KL Diraja, Dr. Bernard is from RC Bandar Sungai Petani, and then our ever charming MC, Dr. Raja Yasmin from RC Melawati, and the lady behind the whole show, who had done all the EDMs and all the things that is Rotarian Assistant Governor Mili from RC Kampung Baru City Center. With that, I thank you very much. And Yasmin, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Silva Kumar. Engaging and enlightening session indeed. All the more reason for us to fight this disease until it is fully eradicated. Now moving on, Rotarians, ladies and gentlemen, you know the loose change that piles up on your nightstand, in your car, or at the bottom of your purse? Now, what do you do with the loose change? Do you let it sit there like a paperweight? Now, this year, District 3300 introduced Tabung Kita. Your change can change lives. And for this, we have our District Rotary Foundation Chair, past Governor Siti Zubaida, to enlighten us about the project. Now, Siti Zubaida joined Rotary in 1999 and is a charter member of the Rotary Club of Central Damansara. She was elected District Governor for Rotary year 2015-2016.
Jawapan 1.
The Rotary International theme then being Be a Gift to the World. Now, she has been an active Rotarian at both club and district levels, serving various committees, including an active committee member of 3 Rotary Institutes held in Malaysia, and currently District 3300's representative to RI Council on Legislation. Siti is also the advisor to the district action groups on autism, blindness prevention, and mental health initiatives. Now, Siti has been leading the district's COVID-19 emergency relief efforts since the beginning of the pandemic, and now serves as the pro-tem chairman of the National Coalition for Mental Well-Being. Siti is a major donor and an annual contributor of the Every Rotarian every year to the Rotary Foundation. Professionally, she is a private investigator and security consultant and manages her own company, Corporate Risk Consulting Sdn Bhd. She also sits on the advisory panel of the Women's Institute of Management. She is the past president of the World Association of Detectives. Siti's passion for service is through her work in Rotary. Past Governor Siti, the screen is yours.
Sorry.
Please unmute yourself.
I need to share the screen.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, with the screen. Anyway, Yasmin, thank you very, very much for the introduction. Today is actually more about Rotary as well as polio. I must say thank you to PAG Silva, Dr. Silva, because his passion in polio is amazing. And I'm sure he, with his team today, he did an excellent event. So today, guys, is all about you and all about Rotarians. Now, Rotary polio is very close to every Rotarian's heart. It is a single corporate project of Rotary. I think you have heard tremendously from even our PDG Aziz Memon. Rotary and the Bill Gates Foundation have also extended fundraising, which generates up to 150 million for the next 3 years. And for every dollar that we contribute, Bill Gates is going to match it $2. So we have 50 million target to reach every year so that we can have our 150 million target in the next 3 years. Now, it is a collective responsibility of every Rotarian to support this effort. And we'd like to thank every Rotarian who have been and are contributing to the Rotary International Polio Fund. Now, to make it easy for our district this year, we have introduced Tabung Kita for polio. I'd like to invite our past district governor, who is also the vice governor for this year, to launch our polio and to say a few words in this launch.
PDCT, can I?
Yes, over. Yes.
Can I proceed the
Yeah.
slides? Yeah.
Yes, over to PDG Dr. Jamie for the launch.
Yeah. I hope that I'm now on.
Yes, Dato.
Okay then. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Rotarians, I'm pleased to be chosen to do this launching. Fellow Rotarians, we have learned from Dr. Musa that from every $1 that we donate, the Bill and Melinda Foundation will donate $3. We are now targeting to eliminate polio by the year 2023. Now, every Rotarian in Malaysia is aware how close we are to the polio end game. Some of us join polio vaccination day overseas when there's a campaign to learn and assist in vaccination. Many donate, but not all donate or help to raise funds. So now some of us, this Tabung project gives you and I and us not only the chance to contribute, but also to help raise funds. And if some will do. Now the project was delayed because of the pandemic or MCO, and now that we have the freedom of movement, we have this urgent need to launch this project. So let's not wait. So without further ado, on behalf of the Rotary Foundation of District 3300, I hereby launch the Tabung Haji, the Tabung project, not Haji, but the Tabung project with the first donation of US $1,000. Now, if each of us pledge to raise 1,000, you don't have to donate yourself, but pledge, and you can do it on the chat now. Then we will have raised something like 100,000. Earlier, there was 164 people, but they knew that I was coming, so now 60 left. There's 99 left. So if each of us raise 1,000, that's 100,000. Bill and Melinda Foundation will donate 3 times, and we would have done justice to all our speakers, our organizers for the effort today, and raise about $400,000. So thank you for your effort, and let's get moving and do our donations. Thank you. And back to you, MC.
Thank you, the PDG. I must say that at PDG, that Jimmy walked the talk. He is our first Arch Clump Society member, trustee circle, who has contributed more than 250,000 US to the Rotary Foundation. I must also recognize our second Arch Clump Society member, Chair Circle, who has contributed more than 500,000 US dollars. And that's none other than our PDG, Leo Cheng Lim. Thank you, Rotarians. It is really inspiring, and your contribution, I hope, will motivate the rest of us to do the same. The clubs and Rotarians support. Next slide, please.
I'm sorry, okay, I'll just share, hold on, yeah. It's always a problem.
The clubs and Rotarians in our district have also, in the last few months, create awareness on polio. These are some of the frames that we have captured, and we would like you to continue sharing those awareness and also advocate for polio. Our past district governors, Siva, go back please.
Okay, sorry.
Our past district governors have also joined the bandwagon and has been part of this exercise. And these are some of the PDGs who is also supporting World Polio Day, which they have been doing for many, many years since they were also governors. Thank you, Silva, for this. Now, in conclusion, I must thank our eminent speakers, because today's event may not have been made possible without their contribution. It gives me great pleasure to thank each and every one of them for spending their valuable time with us today. And we'd like to present a virtual certificate to each of them. To past President John Seo of RC Jakarta Central, living positively, an inspiring speech, and his touching journey as a polio victim since he was born. It did not deter him despite being a nobody's child. Today, he is a Rotarian and championing polio eradication, crossing all hurdles only to be a successful individual and a source of inspiration to others.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Dr. Musa Muhammad Node, a senior pediatrician at KPJ Hospital, and who has been involved in many humanitarian work internationally. He shared his thoughts on the past, present, and future on polio vaccination in Malaysia, and how we should not forget the seriousness of vaccine preventable disease like polio when we had the outbreak in 1972 and its reoccurrence recently in 2019. And we should continue this course. Thank you, Dr. Musa, for being an inspiration to Rotary and supporting our cause. Our next speaker, Dr. Herman Shukula. Thank you for being with us from WHO, who shared the WHO Polio Endgame Strategic Plan for 2021 to 2023, its current status, the challenges, and the plans moving forward. I'm certain that Rotary globally, as well as Rotary here in Malaysia, will pursue with the cause in line with the end game. And the next speaker, Mr. Patrick Teo. Patrick, you have lived with polio at the age of 8, and it has infected your legs. But what you shared with us is that your positiveness, it didn't affect you to live alive and be the voice of Malaysia whenever we are on the radio. So you have been in an inspiration. And the first time you felt that you were a polio survivor at the age of 60, I must say it's just age. All of us going to be 60, we suffer the same. So don't worry, Patrick, we are with you at the age of 60. Thank you. And of course, to past District Governor Aziz Memon, RI trustee from Pakistan. He is the voice of end polio in our part of the world, especially in Pakistan and Afghanistan. He has never tirelessly promote and work and advocate for polio eradication. He's always on the ground at every NID day, and I must concur with him. If you have an opportunity, Rotarians, to attend or be at an NID day, it is an experience. I was at the NID in Bangladesh, and you can't imagine when you put that drop in a child's mouth, you actually have saved a child's life. WHO says, as long as a single child remains infected, children in all countries at risk of contracting polio. Failure to eradicate polio from these last remaining strongholds could result in as many as 200,000 new cases every year. With over 10 years, within 10 years, it will be all over the world. I think our speakers today has enlightened us about the seriousness that we cannot stop promoting awareness on polio. My friends, thank you for being with us today. And once again, on behalf of the District Rotary Foundation Committee, I would like to thank our Polio Plus Chair, Dr. Silva, for his untiring effort in putting this event together, and for his team for an excellent morning on World Polio Day. I wish you all the best, and please, last note, continue to update your projects in endpolio.com. So far, only 38 clubs have done that. Use your Polio Tabung Kita project to upload your project and showcase your awareness of polio. Thank you, and over to you, Yasmin.
Thank you, Vice Governor Dr. Jimmy Lim, all esteemed speakers, and past Governor Siti Zubaida. Now, I think as piggy bank using kids everywhere will attest, even pennies a day can add up to significant savings. So on your next cleaning spree, go from sofa cushions to cars to desk drawers and collect your spare change, then put it to good use. Also remember, in conjunction with World Polio Day today, the first 30 to contribute $1,000 to Polio Plus will receive Rotary themed scarf or Thai worth $160. Now keep it coming. Leave your name in the chat box. You can make your donation at endpolio.org/donate. Be a part of the fight to end polio and have your donation matched 2-to-1 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So your US $1,000 contribution to the Polio Plus Fund will be transformed to US $3,000 with the matching of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and that will fund more than 5,000 vaccines. Let's join the global race to end polio. This is the end game. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your presence and attention. Do stay on and enjoy the fellowship. You can unmute yourself, everyone.
Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you very much. I would like to just inform that at 5 o'clock, we must adjourn to Singapore or to the East District 3310 and listen to their World Polio Day. I encourage everyone who's here to join District 3310 for their World Polio Day. Please join them. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Selva, can I add?
Good morning from India.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Kothiwa.
I'd like to say thank you to PDGs who have just contributed $1,000. We have PDG Kenku following, of course, PDG Dr. Jimmy Lim. We have PAG Surinder, 1,000. We have also, of course, our PAG Selva, who has contributed 1,500. And we also have PDG Leo, who first initially contributed 500, now has topped up another 500. So we have another 1,000 from PDG Leo. Thank you, everyone. And please keep the numbers coming. Your tabung is where you can put in your contributions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Well done. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, Selva.
Thank you.
Good job.
Good job.
Bye,
Dr.
Bindi.
Silva.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
morning,
Thank
DG
you.
DG
Well done.
Dolly.
Bye.
Hey, hi, Dolly. You're here.
PDG Dolly, I'll join you.
Selva was willing to.
I got home and then I switched it on to my computer. Well done.
Oh,
See you all later.
Yeah,
Bye,
we'll
PDG.
come and visit you later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello,
Thank you, DG.
DG.
Good morning, DG Bindi.
Good morning. Good morning, Nichelle. How are you? Good to see
Good,
you.
good. Nice to see you. Nice to
Yeah,
see
Dr.
you.
Nichelle, how are you?
I'm good, sir.
NID. I'm good. Go again.
Yes, yes, we'll meet. Good
Hello.
morning.
Hello. Long
I have
time.
shared link. You can see the pictures of last visit.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
put
yeah.
it together.
I saw the link. Thank you.
You.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
I will
Good
surely
day.
make a plan to
Thank you,
visit you all.
Kopiang, for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Nisha,
safe.
Nisha,
Bye.
I'll get your email from DG Bindi.
Yeah, sure. I have his email.
Thank you.
Nisha.
DG, are you driving to Ipoh now?
I've already arrived.
Oh, all right. That's thank you very much, DG. Thank you.
Thank you. Good show, Selva.
Yeah. No, I have to.
Fantastic
Well done.
speakers.
Okay.
Everything
Yeah.
went off well. Thanks.
Yes, I was a bit worried actually, the site glitches actually, but it's okay. I mean, I have a good team and I have good advisors from
Yeah.
you and PDCT. I have to leave now to see a patient. Bye.
Okay,
Bye, Dr.
bye,
Silva.
everybody.
Check
Bye,
your
everyone.
email. I sent to you.
Yeah,
already.
Pauline, I got it. Pauline, I got it ready.
Okay.
I will share.
Okay.
Thank you, Pauline.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye, DG. Bye, John.
Bye, bye, bye.
Everyone,
Bye,
see
John.
you.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye, Dr.
Bye.
Silva.
Bye, bye, Nikki. How are you? Bye.
Great
Thank you.
job. Yes. See you again. Well done.
Bye, bye, Nikki. See you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
PDG Michael Yee is here. I didn't see him. PDG Michael Yee. Good
PDG
to see
City
you.
must catch up for coffee, lah.
Can, no problem.
One of these days, I call you up, okay?
Sure.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yes,
Bye,
PDG
everyone.
Mikey was here. I only just saw him when he sent me an invite to his
Yeah, I saw
what do
him
you
just
call?
now. Yeah.
His Zoom today.
Yeah, he's here. PDG Michael, how are you?
Okay, fine. Great. Thanks.
I'll join you at
thanks
5 o'clock. I'll join at 5
Yeah.
o'clock.
Good. Thanks for promoting our World Polio event.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Nishal. See you. Good
Bye.
to see you, Nishal. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining, though it was last minute invitation.
No
Thank
issues.
you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye.
Okay. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.